Hi, I'm Aaron Ross.
And I'm Ken Ross.
This is the second fatal mistake that CEOs make when creating predictable revenue. And this one is
Having a top-down or autocratic management style.
CEOs face special challenges in sales management. So let's take a look at a few of them. Primarily, the CEO's job actually depends on their results.
And inaccurate sales forecasts really damage the credibility of the sales organization.
And the internet is obsoleting old sales models. So what used to work for you just isn't anymore.
And the high performers that you've hired and depend upon to bring in all the sales and can be incredibly difficult to manage.
The CEO has a classic role of bridging conflicts between sales and engineering and marketing.
And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, creating and managing goals relative to compensation plans is a difficult problem. Okay, self-managing sales teams is one of the ideas that Aaron talks about in his book. Let's take a look at a few concepts behind this idea. Why should the CEO create self-managing sales teams? The biggest reason is fairly obvious. It's motivation. If the team participates in the creation of their goals, their compensation plans, or whatever, then they'll be motivated, they'll be productive, they'll be effective. It's also going to free up the CEO and the other sales executives to focus on higher value activities, and it might be like selling big deals or whatever. And you're in the spirit of predictable revenue, you're going to achieve more predictable, more repeatable results without the typical fits and starts that are typical in many sales organizations. But there's a downside, and the downside is you've got to give up some control.
Now, there are three key principles for building self-managing sales teams. The first is transparency. Of course, as CEO, you want full transparency from the sales team, but how much transparency do you give them? Frank Dante, CEO of the Rubicon Project, actually takes the presentation he gives to the board every month, turns around, and then gives it to his company. Right? A great way to really engage and motivate people. Which brings us to the second point of involvement. People work hard when they feel ownership. In other words, people support what they help create. So if you're used to rolling out new sales initiatives, whether it's around a sales system or compensation or anything, and stuff just isn't being adopted, it might be because you didn't involve the sales team early enough before you dropped it on them. Now the third point is around interest. As long as it doesn't distract them from their day job, let people work on whatever interests them, even if it's outside their job description. Google and 3M were famous for encouraging people to work on their own ideas for improving the company. Right? So why not give the opportunity to salespeople to do the same? Right? If you give people the opportunity to be creative and contribute, some of your people will really step up in a big way and do it.
Let's look at one example of what you can do with a self-managing sales team, and that's engaging the team in the design of their compensation plan. It's a bit of a radical idea, but it can be incredibly effective. It's effective because the people are going to support what they help create, and they're going to understand it better, and there'll be a lot less bickering at the front end about how the plan is structured. I think most importantly from the CEO's perspective is they're going to be involved in setting realistic goals and a realistic structure with less ambiguities and less complexities than might otherwise be developed. And this is going to make the overall plan a lot easier to administer and structure. And at the end, when you're computing compensation, you're going to minimize complaints and you're going to minimize negotiations and renegotiations.
Here's a case study on open compensation reporting. Now, tell me if you've been in this situation before where you're on a team and different people have different comp plans. And every, say, quarter, finance runs the reports, calculations, sends checks, and you or other people are pissed off because they're wrong. Right? So there's unhappy surprises, feels unfair, and there's a lot of drama that goes into and energy goes into fixing it. Now, with the open approach or transparent approach, which is how I ran my team at Salesforce.com, ideally everyone on the same sales team with the same role has the same comp plan. Right? There's no one-offs. Every month I'd run reports. I'd prepare one spreadsheet with everybody's compensation calculations. I'd share it with the whole team so everyone could see theirs and others. I'd get all the fixes if needed before I sent it to finance. And so when people got their checks, there was no surprises. It felt fair, it was very easy, and eliminated all the drama involved. Running a sales team is so much easier, and the team's so much more motivated when you don't have secrets. Now, as a free gift, you can download here below a predictable revenue book excerpt with a bunch more details on both how to create self-managing teams and how to involve a sales team in designing their own compensation.
Coming up next is the third and last video in this series, and it's really one of the areas that I find the most interesting, which is setting unrealistic goals. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for joining us.